Hey sports fans, Coach Nick here, and welcome to another edition of Court Call with Ronnie Nunn. Ronnie, I'm excited to have you. We have some great plays today. Are you ready to put that whistle on?
I'm ready to put the whistle on and put the mouth in motion to see if we can get it right. Some great questions from the fans.
The Warriors and the Suns had a good battle, and at the end of the first half, Steph Curry nails a quick release three. Amar wants to know if the refs missed the travel call.
I think it was a great pickup by our fan in recognizing that this was a travel, and it indeed was a travel. But in all fairness, this kind of play happens a whole lot in the game, and as the officials are continuing to focus on travel, the devil is in the details of this particular travel, and you will see as Curry begins to grab that ball, he grabs it in the air, and then upon getting down, he comes down with his left foot, then his right, and then in slow motion, we can see how he actually steps back by picking up his pivot foot, which was his left, and all of a sudden, he takes an extra step with doing that. When you are going for a ball in the air, you can only come down with two steps. The first step is your pivot, and the second one stops you. And different than when you catch a ball on the ground with the same motion. Well, a foot down, you're allowed two steps, meaning the pivot foot can go up to another location again to stop you. But in the air, you can only stop on a 1-2 upon landing. Either way he landed, whether with 2 feet or 1, he can't do what he did by moving 2 feet, and he did move 2 feet.
I think in the defense of the referee, he is in a full sprint down the court trying to keep up with world-class athletes, and that's not so easy. The only interesting thing is that I think his number one focus is on where his feet are. Is it a 3 or is it not a 3? And in that context, you would have thought, well, then he would have seen the extra steps as well, but I think that's a bang-bang play.
I don't even blame the officials on this. This is a staff-wide and a league-wide focus point that has to go even more detailed, and that's why a lot of these tight plays get missed. Your point about what he's looking for is absolutely right, and he's looking for the 3, he's looking for the clock, he's looking for a few things there. So I'm glad that you, a coach, recognize it, and I hope the other coaches also see that.
The Clippers and Spurs went at it last night, and CP3 used a rip-through move as a face-up out of the low post. Tristan questions why free throws were awarded. I want to talk a little bit about the new rule, or it's not so new now, but the rule about not giving free throws to a rip-through move and whether or not this applied in this play. So talk to us a little bit about what the rule is and then what happened in this play specifically.
Yeah, let's run the play through and we'll see that there's a post up, and now what happens with CP3 here is he's really outside of that post up move and area. Now he's a regular perimeter player. Now in the post, you have situations as you go across the lane, as you up fake, where you can have a play that looks like a rip through, which is legal. Rip throughs in the post, backing down, curling, step back, up fakes, they're not seen as rip throughs. But on the perimeter, you can't go out of your way to get a shooting foul, as Chris Paul did in this case. He went like going towards midcourt to try to find contact in order to go the other way to shoot a ball. And in this case, the official makes a great signal. He gets the play right. By the way, it is a foul. There's no question. But you can't give free throws on this play because it's a rip-through play, and they don't accommodate for 2 shots anymore. And I think it was great. By the way, he's shooting free throws, but I guess our guy that wrote in has to recognize one thing. This is the 7th foul of the quarter. So any foul was going to bring him to the line. So the penalty did exist, or the bonus, as the college would say. So he went to the line. But this can be confusing to somebody if you take this play out of context.
And without question, I'm really glad that they have that rule in where you don't get free throws on a rip-through move on the perimeter. And by the way, definitely something that nobody knows about, that if you're in the post and you do a rip-through move like that, that is not considered the same thing as when you see Kevin Durant or CP3 do on the perimeter. So that's a great way to delineate that. My biggest problem was that normally a move like that is not a basketball move trying to score. It's simply trying to throw your arm in there and maybe get a call. And that's what gets frustrating, because I feel like it's taking advantage of what the intent of the rule is supposed to be.
Well, during my directorship, I remember Larry Bird, who was part of team management at that time in Indiana, brought that up. He said, this is not a basketball play. How do we get out of it? And at the time, frankly, I said, I don't know how we can really get out of it. If a player is going to be close enough, a defender close enough to the offense, and he wants to put a touch on there, and the offensive player wants to get that touch, he's going to get it. You know, maybe we need to teach the defense, but I think what's come out has been great. This is a great recognition of looking for a foul on a shot that you can't get.
And by the way, a great point you made about teaching defense, because rarely do I ever teach a guy who's guarding the ball to have his arms sort of straight out ahead into the space of the offensive player. And that's where you get caught. Sometimes they're good, they can yank it back before the contact, but you know, normally you don't have your arm that way anyway, and that's also an issue with that could get cleaned up on just the fundamental side if they would teach it differently. Next up is a defensive play by Robert Sacre of the Lakers, and during the fourth quarter of their game against the Bobcats, both Arun and Forever Purple and Gold want to know if this should have been a no call. We could probably spend our entire show on verticality because it happens often and it just seems to be a little bit all over the place. So let's go over it again. Let's look at what happened here and let us know, like, was this a good call?
Yeah, you know, this was an interesting call because if we stopped the play originally, Sacre, he's kind of stretching to get into a blocking position, but had he just stayed there, it would have been clearly a block. But what he did was he rose up at the same time the player did, and he became vertical. And the contact was kind of quick and lower than normal contact, which is above and higher. It's always good to see a vertical player make contact when both players are clearly up and got to their peak, let's say. When it's a little bit lower, it gives an illusion that the player is not as vertical or he didn't get there in time. And it's a very interesting play. I recognize why the official called it, but if you test the verticality from the feet up, no matter how high it goes up, it is a vertical play. And it should have been a no call. It looks like a rough play, and officials are aware of plays that don't look good, they're not so palatable, they don't taste right, and they don't look right, and that's why he responded. I don't blame him so much for responding, but I like for the fact that he take a look at those kind of plays because we're going to see more of them when verticality is legal.
Now watch the play again. When you watch the referee, he is hustling over to try and get in position. But then as the guy starts driving, he quickly backpedals quickly and like sprints backwards. So I don't know if he's in perfect position. It seems like he can't see the collision.
Well, remember now, that official on the baseline is a secondary viewer of that play. He is not the primary person to make that call. That play really comes from the top of our screen where the official is called in the center in college or in the slot in the NBA position. And that drive emanates and originates from his launching pad. And he's the one that's got to pick up Sacre. And if he can get it, which he did, I think he probably thought there might have been some lateral movement. And that's the reason why he called it. But obviously at the very end, this play really looks vertical, but it is a tough vertical because the contact is made kind of quickly as both go up at the same time. And those kind of plays don't seem to look so appealing.
We've talked about Hibbert getting the benefit of the doubt, perhaps, by referees, reputation-wise. What we've seen him do, and what I see Sacre doing here as well, is not only is he going straight up, but he actually jumps backwards to some degree, sort of with the guy, so that he can kind of lessen that impact. The offensive player looks like he initiates most of that call. So would that be a suggestion you would make to the big guys as they're going up to accentuate the verticality, is to go backwards a little bit?
You know, I think as a demonstration of contact, not a flopping kind of sense, but a demonstration that I've been hit and I've been vertical and I am now going backwards. Yes, I think, you know, obviously Sacre is a powerful looking young man. And so he may look like more of the perpetrator than the driving player defensively, but he really is legal. And I think it's a combination of two, giving a recognition that he has been hit when he's legal. And secondly, the officials getting used to seeing more and more people of different ilk and style that incorporate verticality. And this is another good verticality play. But it is not as easy as some of the Hibbert ones that we see or others that do great verticality defensive plays.
During the Heat Pacers game, we had a key play where Birdman blocks a shot, and Pablo wants to know why this was reviewed and ultimately reversed. I was unaware that you could review goaltends like that, so walk us through what the rules are and how that works.
As a matter of fact, as you do see, there's another couple of little things that go in this sequence. On the steal, the ball actually hits the official and disrupts the play, and then all of a sudden, I think another Indiana player, Hill, picks it up, and the game continues. You know, the official is part of the floor, and if he's in the legal part of the floor, not on the sideline out of bounds, you know, the play continues, so fans ought to know that. But when we get to the point of this shot, this is definitely not a goaltend, but a great block by Anderson. Birdman, and he makes a great block, taking the ball to the backboard. Now the question is, the right officials got the call. He's looking at the trajectory of a shot, seeing if it's on its way down. Maybe the rim and the net took a little bit of his eyes away from it, but he reacted too quickly and confirmed the fact that it was a goaltend in his mind. To that point, the NBA, 2 minutes and under in every game of the fourth and the overtime, can go and review any form of goaltend, whether it's a board play, a trajectory play. So the great thing is here, he can correct that mistake by looking at it. And the reason why it ended up a jump ball is because you go back to the act, not the whistle. You know, when you get to the whistle, I think LeBron James has the ball for Miami. But when you really know the act that created it, the ball was loose. Mm-hmm. So in the right way, he did, make this call. It was corrected. Thank goodness for the monitoring process and for this play to be up on monitoring. Now we went to center court for a jump ball, and that's the best way to handle it. It's within the league guideline and rule.
Here's the problem I feel like that the referee has, and it's just the way the game is built in, is not only does he have to watch for a foul, right? He has to be able to see if it's a collision that is worthy of a free throw, but then he's also got to see if it's a goaltend on top of that. And I don't know if that's such an easy thing to do.
No, it's never easy to referee the game. That's why I keep telling people it's one of the biggest challenges in the game. But when you watch the slow-mo and the review, that first initial contact against Stevenson is handled by the baseline official. He's not usually involved on goaltending. He's usually involved on drives to the hoop. That official to the left and in the corner of the screen as it unveils itself is the one that's making this decision, because it's a semi-break now. The third guy is still in the backcourt, and he can't get this play as well. So it's really covered well. I think it just appeared as an illusion. And again, this is one of the reasons why 2 minutes and under, we go to the monitor on goaltends.
Really quickly, as the jump ball unfolded, I caught this at the very end. They called the quick jump on Chris Bosh. Is there a way, can we quickly describe exactly what that rule is? I left it in there. You can see why that was a turnover on the Heat.
This was a stolen tap, to answer your question. And before the official can get the ball to its apex, actually all jump balls should really be tossed to the point that when the ball is just on its way down, the players can go and tip it. And I'd like to pull some footage one day, and we can show this, like when you see Wilt and Bill Russell go up for a jump ball. The glory of those days was that jump ball is like a drill for rebounding. The ball goes up, you go up and get it when it's on its way down, or actually right at the apex, and see who gets it. I mean, it's a real jumping event. Who jumps higher than the other? But as the game has gone on, people have cheated this toss, and they put the blame on the officials. And I would like to continue to see officials, which, by the way, that same official responded during a critical time in the game and did take the ball away from Miami, because Bosh did take it before it reached and he pulled it out. That's not to say the other jumper did not try to get that ball himself. There's been a culture to go get these balls as soon as they're released from the official. And I think we ought to change that culture by continually calling, the violation. It's not the toss's fault. It's the guys that are jumping and stealing it.
At the end of the Warriors-Mavericks game, Steph Curry hits an incredible shot, but is joined by one of his teammates from the bench in a celebration on the court. Alex, Ben, and Vincent want to know why the Warriors did not get a technical foul. This was not just coming out 2 steps. This is in the middle of the court. So, Ronnie, tell us what you thought, and what did the referee have to weigh here as far as his effect on the game?
The rules for coming off the bench, remember what they're primarily for. They're really primarily for control of the game during an altercation. And this is obviously not an altercation. This is a joy by one of the bench or a couple of players that come on out and want to give a high five and a body bump. And everybody at this time believes that this play actually is, the game is over. I mean, you could see the players just walking off. So it's just kind of a thing that occurs. I think it was well adjudicated in that they didn't get anybody for having a technical foul on that play, because it wasn't an altercation issue. The other good news was that a technical foul could have occurred if play continued immediately and it interrupted that long pass, let's say. But nothing like that occurred. So I think that they were just lucky not to be, admonished or chastised with a technical foul for coming onto the court, because it didn't have the same emphasis or the reasoning for coming on the court as it involves.
Is the letter of the law, would that have been 6 players on the court?
I think in the letter of the law, we could have had 6 players on the court, but remember, it was a dead ball. Once the ball goes through the hoop, the clock stops, and the play is actually dead. So it really didn't have an effect on the play, but I really do think that this is something that can cause a problem, and the league might want to look at this as one of those things to say, look, we've got rules for being on the court and not. We even have that rule about running off the court during play. This might be another category that they need to look at.
This would have been one of those Don Beebe, Leon Lett moments where, had they gotten it in and scored, the real issue wasn't necessarily that the guy came on the court, but it was that Steph Curry was oblivious to the play, and it was his man who got like a clean look a little bit at a half-court shot. And if that had gone in, that would have been the lesson learned, was that you can't celebrate like that until the horn sounds. So I feel like most of the fans' focus was on the fact that the extra guy came on the court and they wanted the referees to get involved. To me, what I see is a little bit of immaturity and lack of recognition of what the situation was. You can't afford to do that.
Well, you're right. Listen, it's under the umbrella thing called exhilaration, and these guys are really excited about this great shot. And everybody just loses their conscientiousness of what's going on. I mean, Curry does, the opponent team does. Everybody's so flatlined by the play. Player comes off the bench and bumps him. I mean, it looked like the game was over when in fact it wasn't. Now, we have situations like that, and I think there's an awareness to that, but it would be really tough to give a technical foul for this type of scenario.
Well, I have that same feeling of exhilaration whenever we can get together and go through these plays, and maybe I'll have to chest bump somebody next time we do this if I can find him. But Ronnie, I think there were some awesome points in here this time. A really good learning stuff for the fans to get better and more astute at what's happening out there. Again, terrific stuff. Can't wait to share it with everybody.
Yeah, I appreciate your time with it. These are all interesting things, and this goes in the minds of how to manage a game in all its dimensions. So officiating, again, is one of the greatest challenges of all when you are, dealing with basketball. Really a great challenge, as is every other 2 principal groups, coaching and playing. Every piece has a unique challenge to itself.
Well, thanks for joining us, sports fans, and don't forget, at B-Ball Breakdown, we're not a channel, we're a conversation. You in?
I'm in, Coach. Thanks for having me.